we said that, you know, unless he gets into the fight, it's going to be a disastrous start for him, and it was more than a disastrous start.
Would you want to see Dillian retire?
Yeah, 100%.
Look, if he is retiring, he's had an amazing career, and let's do it properly, right? Let's have a proper retirement, not just a 17-second Instagram post, right?
Dillian Whyte has announced his retirement after that humiliating defeat, and let's be honest, he had no other option. Moses Itauma flattened him in the opening round, shattering any hope of a comeback. Eddie Hearn didn't hold back either, saying, "It's over. The game has passed him by." That knockout didn't just end a fight, it erased Whyte's legacy in one brutal moment.
It's time to retire when your physicalities change. Your punch resistance isn't as good. You know, maybe you're a bit slower. Maybe your desire's not there. We're not saying.
Johnny Nelson cut straight to the truth. He's seen this routine before. Whyte claiming retirement feels less like closure and more like the boy who cried wolf. Getting iced by Moses Itauma in round 1 leaves no space for theatrics. Nelson knows it, the fans know it. This wasn't a choice. This was surrender. Carl Froch didn't mince his words either, exposing Whyte's real motives behind this so-called exit. Froch nailed it. This isn't an honorable retirement, it's attention-seeking. Whyte knows Moses embarrassed him, so now he hides behind drama to cling to relevance. But fans aren't buying it anymore. Froch said what everyone's thinking. The excuses are tired, the act is stale, and Moses has stolen the spotlight for good.
He is trying to get attention, he's trying to stay in the limelight and keep in the public eye, or is he trying to do it as a negotiating ploy, so when he's retired it's going to cost a bit more money to get him out of retirement? But either way, if I'm totally honest,
Eddie Hearn refused to sugarcoat the reality. At 38 years old, inactive, and stepping in against a young lion like Moses, disaster was inevitable. And disaster is exactly what happened. Hearn made it clear, Whyte is finished. Any dream of fighting Usyk or another top contender is dead. Moses didn't just beat him, he erased him from the heavyweight picture.
You know, mojo from Dillian, but listen, it's very difficult when you're 38 years old. You've been out of the ring for a couple of years and you've just had that Tete fight, and you fight a brilliant young sharp fighter. We said that, you know, unless he gets into the fight, it's going to be a disastrous start for him, and it was more than a disastrous start.
Would you want to see Dillian retire?
Yeah, 100%.
What next for Moses? Because there was talk about Usyk and
I wanted to see him in with a live, active heavyweight, you know, because he's definitely good enough.
Even Derek Chisora, a man who went to war with Whyte, admitted it's a sad ending. But sympathy doesn't change the truth. Whyte never adapted, never evolved, and Moses exposed every flaw in just one savage round. Chisora's loyalty is clear, but deep down he knows that Temple shot wasn't just a punch. It was the full stop at the end of Whyte's career.
Hey, listen, you go call the head on the Temple, and then after that it was a long night for him. I'm a bit sad, because I didn't want him to go out like that.
Is that because of the fights you've had with him?
No, it's because that he's never boxed a southpaw. You know, that's the first southpaw he's boxed in how long? It's maybe his whole career.
Teddy Atlas didn't waste time dressing it up. He called Moses a young monster, one who doesn't just pass tests, he destroys them. Against Whyte, a man who once saw himself as a contender, Moses didn't just win, he humiliated him in record time. Atlas explained it perfectly. This wasn't just another fight, it was proof that Moses is levels above what the critics or oddsmakers expected. The scary part? He made it look effortless. Moses walked in with the composure of a champion, but fought with the hunger of a rising prospect. Whyte was done before it even began. And that's the difference. Moses doesn't play with his food. He devours it. That's why he's the most dangerous prospect in boxing today. If he can dismantle a veteran like Whyte this easily, just imagine what happens when the stakes get even higher.
I think Moses could make it an early night. He could take what possibly could be a test, a step up, and actually ace it. I think it could be earlier than the odds makers even think.
When Ben Davison gave his verdict, he couldn't ignore the gulf between them either. Davison struck the perfect balance. Respect for Whyte as a man, but full credit to Moses Itauma for the way he dismantled him. Let's be real. Nobody expected it to be that brutal, that fast. Davison made it clear this wasn't luck, it wasn't a fluke, this was levels. Whyte stepped up bravely, but he stepped straight into a buzzsaw. Before the fight, critics said Moses was too young, too untested. But the second the bell rang, those doubts evaporated. Davison said it best, when you get wiped out in one round, all you can do is tip your hat. Respect to Dillian, sure, but the future belongs to Moses.
No, I think it's extremely disrespectful to have that approach. Like I say, nothing but respect with Dillian. Really appreciate him giving us the opportunity. And yeah, I think Moses deserves all the credit that he should be getting.
Eddie Hearn doubled down with his blunt take on Whyte's so-called retirement. Hearn knows the business, and he knows Dillian Whyte better than most, which is why his words sting. This wasn't just retirement. This was saving face after humiliation. Hearn basically admitted it. Whyte will only stay retired until someone waves enough cash. But here's the problem. Who's paying big money for a fighter who got sparked in one round?
The truth is Moses shattered the aura around Whyte.
Hearn's subtle message was clear. If this is really the end, at least he had a decent run. But if he comes back, it's nothing more than a payday grab. Fans don't want reruns. They want fresh blood, killers, the next big thing. And right now, that's Moses, not Dillian.
British fight fans, because we've got a chance to make the biggest fight in boxing, but if that is the last we see of him, he's had a great career. I doubt it. But, it's always best to come into retirement to make sure someone pays you to come out of retirement. But if that's his lot, much respect to him.
Duke McKenzie summed up the jaw-dropping reality. Moses didn't just beat Whyte, he made it look like a spar. From the walkout to the first bell, the composure he showed was insane for a 20-year-old.
Pressure usually breaks young fighters, but for Moses, it fuels him.
That's why the knockout hit harder than just on Whyte's chin. It shook the whole heavyweight division. McKenzie admitted he expected Moses to win, but nobody thought it would be this easy. And that's the scary part.
If he can crush a veteran with years of experience under the bright lights, what happens when he's thrown in with the elites?
At just 20, Moses is calm, ruthless, and already tearing through men who've been in the game far longer. McKenzie nailed it. This wasn't just a victory, it was a statement to the entire boxing world.
I thought we would beat Dillian Whyte, but not with that ease. He looked so comfortable, like saying the build-up, in the changing room, his ring walk, his whole sort of demeanour once he actually got into the ring. For a young guy of only 20 years of age, to hold down all that pressure and not show it, it's quite impressive. But
Frank Warren also weighed in with respect, and rightly so. Dillian Whyte has been a staple of British boxing for years. But let's be honest, this wasn't a retirement on his terms. This was forced. And the man who forced it was Moses Itauma. Warren balanced it well, acknowledging Whyte's past achievements while accepting the brutal present.
Yes, Whyte gave fans nights of drama, rivalries, and wars. But against Moses, all that history crumbled in a single round.
Warren's tone almost felt like a eulogy, a farewell to a fighter who gave everything, but simply no longer belongs at the top. And that's what makes Moses's performance so powerful. In one fight, he didn't just beat a veteran. He closed his chapter. From now on, Whyte's name will always be tied to the night a 20-year-old prospect sent him into retirement. Warren's respect was valid, but the truth is simple.
So questions here this afternoon about whether we will indeed see him back in the ring. I suppose it's difficult for you to say, Frank.
Well, it is, but I don't believe we will. I think that's the decision he's made. And we've had, what he's given to British boxing.
Dave Coldwell captured what every fan felt watching Moses dismantle Dillian Whyte. This kid is pure excitement. He doesn't drag fights out, doesn't play games, and never gives opponents room to breathe. Coldwell nailed it. Moses doesn't owe anyone extra rounds. His only job is to win, and he does it with chilling efficiency. That's why, even before this demolition, many already called him the best prospect in world boxing. Now, there's no debate. Beating a name like Whyte, a man once in the mix with AJ, Fury, and Wilder, instantly validates the hype. The beauty is in the ruthlessness. He steps into the ring with one mission: destroy. No padding the record, no cautious dancing, just devastation. Coldwell's excitement mirrors the new wave of fans rallying behind him. Because Moses brings back that raw, Tyson-like aura the heavyweight division has been missing. Whyte may have thought his veteran tricks would slow the kid down, but he learned the hard way. Moses doesn't just collect names. He erases them. That's why he's already boxing's most electrifying prospect.
Moses Itauma certainly doesn't owe us any extra rounds, any extra time in fight. He wants to go out there and get rid of these guys as soon as possible, which is why he is so exciting, and which is why, for me, even before tonight, for me, he's the best prospect.
Antonio Tarver took it even further, comparing Moses to none other than a young Mike Tyson. And after what we saw against Dillian Whyte, how can anyone argue? At just 20 years old, Moses has that rare blend of patience and explosiveness. He doesn't rush, doesn't waste punches, but the second he sees an opening, it's lights out. That's exactly what he did to Whyte. Tarver hit the nail on the head. For veterans, facing Moses will be a nightmare. They might bring experience, but he has timing, composure, and terrifying knockout power. What stands out most is his maturity. He knows how to set traps. He knows how to finish, and he does it with a coldness beyond his years. Whyte found that out brutally. Tarver's Tyson comparison isn't hype, it's the feeling Moses gives fans. Danger, excitement, unpredictability. The heavyweight division has been desperate for its next true wrecking ball. And with Whyte's career slammed shut, Moses is stepping into that role as the man everyone fears.
I didn't expect that. Did you expect that?
Hey, this is a young kid, 20 years old, with devastating knockout power, bro. This have Mike Tyson type of energy all over it. Yeah, he's going to give these tough guys, he's going to give these veterans a hell of a time, bro. He's poised, he's patient, and he got that knockout power. He know how to set it up.
Dillian Whyte's retirement feels less like a choice and more like a surrender, forced by Moses's ruthless first-round destruction. 4 years, Whyte was a gritty contender, clawing his way into the big nights. But that savage knockout sealed his fate. Now the spotlight shifts to Moses, a 20-year-old phenom already carrying the aura of a future world champion. The real question is, what happens next? If Moses keeps tearing through opponents, he could be fast-tracked to a world title shot, maybe even becoming Britain's youngest heavyweight king. But if Whyte somehow shocks the world and stages a comeback, it would go down as one of boxing's most unlikely redemptions. Still, the momentum, hunger, and destiny all scream Moses. He looks like the stronger man, the hungrier man, and the fighter fans truly want to see rise. So I'll ask you, are you backing Moses Itauma's takeover? Or do you believe Whyte has one last twist left in him? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.